Hello, this is Jim Whitehead of All Power Group. It's good to have you here today, and thank you for coming or showing up. Anyway, what we're going to talk about today, and I've been married before, not trying to get too specific, but my first wife, she loved unicorns. And as you know, a unicorn kind of looks like a horse with one horn sticking up. And we all have felt, well, that was a nice mystical, animal, but we didn't think it was real. So today I said, okay, I'm going to do an animal that, again, not too many people know about. So with my... In this case, I use Gemini AI because I use that for my research. Because again, AI is good for so many different things, but it's also very good at getting facts that you need, especially if you're a content creator, making sure that you get full information, accurate information. I use Leonardo AI for my images, so that pulls accurate images. Now, the interesting thing before I get going, this is what Gemini said to me, it didn't say it out loud, but it said, Gemini said that is, when I said an animal that no one really knows anything about, or like that, for example. And it says, that is a delightful, paradoxical request. And I've done paradoxes. I love paradoxes. If A happens, B happens, or B can't happen if A. Very interesting world on paradoxes. In fact, I used to do shorts on just paradoxes. But this is what it asked me before it gave me the specific information that I'm going to present to you. How can something be famous if no one knows about it? So I don't know if AI just said, come on, Jim, you got to use your head on this. How can it be famous and wonderful and everything and no one knows about it? It's true. But it still gave me answers, and it gave me accurate answers. So that's good. It didn't make me feel too bad. Anyway, the answer lies in local fame. And what you're seeing behind me are the remains of what was called the Asian unicorn. Now, and again, there's a lot of, you might say local fame all over the world of people that if you went into a little town and you said, hey, are there unicorns here? And they'd go, oh, yeah, we got plenty of them. You don't know if you're talking to someone that's like not exactly there or whether there is. Well, there is. There are. Anyway. There are animals that are absolute superstars in their home regions. Featured on currency, and you'll see that in a little bit, representing national pride or deeply embedded folklore, but are almost entirely unheard of by the rest of the world. So that fit. So I don't know if I need to get a hold of one of my ex-wives and say, yeah, that you were pretty cool on loving unicorns because there are unicorns. But anyway, as you see the title here, it says artificial intelligence thinks there is a unicorn. And as I go through this, you'll see actually there is, or the rumor, a reputation of having an animal that you would fit right into that unicorn definition. Now, what you're seeing is a very, how do you say, tough land. That if you were to say, well, I'm going to go for a walk, you might have trouble getting through all these, the hills, the little mountains, the undergrowth, the growth. But this is where there was the unicorn. Now, there is a picture of the Asian unicorn. And again, this is real. Now, you might say, wait a minute. Come on, Jim. Unicorns only have one horn. Well, that is the definition. You're right. You got the right answer. You just got some points. But how they kind of explain that is when that animal is, by the way, it's a beautiful animal. Yeah, and I know all animals are beautiful anyway. But if the animal is at the right position, you will really only see one of the horns. So in other words, if it turned a little bit to its right, you'd say, wow, yeah, there's only one horn. But we're not going to kind of get into that and say, oh, that's stupid. But again, I didn't make this up to say, well, I'm going to pick an animal and say that was what people thought were unicorns. But anyway, beautiful animal. And I think we're going to show you a couple more. They're staring at you and saying, hey, thank you for being here. Here is a famous animal that you have almost certainly never heard of. Gemini, good AI program. There's so many good ones. And again, they keep leapfrogging each other. Like this one's the best now, and then 2 hours later, the one that, oh, actually, this is the best one. But they all just keep getting better. Now, I'm not even going to, they call it the Saola. I'm not even going to try to pronounce the real medical or the real name, because I will destroy it. So we're just going to say the Saola, the Asian unicorn. Imagine a creature so elusive that it was only discovered by Western science in 1992. It wasn't found in a remote jungle corner, but rather recognized from skulls in a hunter's home in Vietnam. So, wow. There's another picture of the rendition of that wonderful animal, which, God bless them, you love them, and you want to make sure all animals are taken care of. Why it is famous locally, meaning in Vietnam, and being a cultural icon, the Saola is considered a national treasure in Vietnam and Laos. Now, it symbolizes the hidden biodiversity of the Annamite range. Now you can see the map, and that which is shaded in green is the Annamite range. And that's where the famous Saola did live. And that's where they found, you know, the skulls. And when they were alive, and it didn't really say exactly, 300 BC or whatever the time issue is, folklore in Vietnam and Laos, if you were there and you'd say to someone that had lived there for a long time, you'd say, where are the unicorns? They wouldn't look at you like this poor person has got some problems. No, they would say, our ancestors, we had this wonderful animal that had two horns, but actually it looked like one in certain positions. And I know somebody say, well, the definition of a unicorn is one horn. Well, who made that up? So, you might even say this is more real because it was real. These were real animals, not making them up. And they were just in the Annamite range, not anywhere else, not in any desert, not in any other country, just Vietnam and Laos. So pretty cool. Now, to keep the memory alive, this is an example of Vietnam's money. And there they go. They're saying we feel that there was this wonderful animal, and we're going to honor it by putting it on our money. So again, that's a Republic of Vietnam money. And I think I might, have it where, Anyway, the mystical, let me just go back on that one to keep you looking at it. The mythical status, it often is called the Asian unicorn because it is so rarely seen by humans. They're the lucky humans. Unfortunately, we got most of the population in the world are great, but there are not everybody. So, animals, especially something that would be so unusual, people would try to, I'm going to get it and I'm going to take it to a circus. I mean, you know how that goes. And because of its long, straight horns that look like a single horn, so I'm telling you the truth, from the side. So that's as good as having one horn, or you have two horns, but they line up and they look like one. So, and unfortunately, probably on occasion, you'd have one of these animals that might only have one horn due to injury or birth defects, etc., etc. So really, we can now put it to rest that there are actual unicorns, or there were real unicorns. Now, conservation star, it is the face of conservation efforts in Southeast Asia, similar to how the giant panda is for China. So, Vietnam, excuse me, by the way, I have a flu that's going around. So if my voice sounds old, I'm old, but it's not as old as I sound. Anyway, why no one knows about it globally, extreme exclusiveness. There are likely fewer, and they're still alive. You're going to see, but you don't see them. So it's even hard to say for sure, but they think there are fewer than 100 left in the wild, perhaps even fewer than 50. Now, you can imagine how elusive and smart these animals are, because They were never, an example, they were never captured. No Saola has ever been kept in a zoo or captivity outside its native range. Now, that is amazing because, especially in today's world, we have so many means of indicating and being able to find elusive animals, either from the air, et cetera, et cetera. But no one ever saw this. And even though there still are alive, some alive. Now, the habitat. They live in dense, remote mountain forests that are difficult to access. I showed you that on, I guess, what we call the thumbnail. That is a accurate depiction of the terrain in that area of Vietnam. So, meaning that you probably wouldn't be real smart going in there. And I don't mean anything to do with the unicorns, but it's rough and tough. And, you probably wouldn't see one anyway, since they haven't been seen. But there's projection that they're still alive, that they really know how to hide within that unbelievable territory. So, now fast facts, feature, description, appearance, resembles an antelope, but is actually closely related to cattle. I don't even know how they know that, to be honest with you. When you're trying to get the lineage of this came first and then this came second. How do they know that? But hey, I have to say the things that I pick up as being what they're saying is homework and honesty. Anyway, the diet is mostly fig leaves. That sounds exciting, huh? And other broadleaf plants. Now, the threats. There's always threats. And I just, I have to tell you what it is or say what they say about it, but I really don't think any animal should have threats from us. Let's put it that way. The law of the jungle, we get it, but not when it has related to illegal poaching, snaring. I never heard that term before used for that, but I guess they snare these animals. And the other sad part of this is the habitat loss. It's like having your home. You like your home. It's not where you're saying, well, every day I'm looking for another place to live. No. This is where they are, and this is where they will be until they're not here any longer. So, poaching and habitat loss and deforestation that I've spoken about many times. It's quite humbling to think there are still large, beautiful mammals out there that remain absolute mysteries to most of the world. So, again, if you understand my voice isn't right, and by the way, I wear this shirt pretty much every time I do a presentation. And if you look at KK4JTW, I'm a ham radio person. And that's my call sign, Kilo 4 Juliet Tango Whiskey. And, with ham radio, and by the way, if anybody wants to learn a little bit of ham radio, hey, I love teaching and passing on everything that I know. Ham radio is great and fun, and you talk to people all over the world. And people say, well, why don't you use a telephone? Well, this is where you get into working to make it where you can speak to people around the world. It isn't like you get on your phone and you can call anybody and you speak. No, this is all done with the environment, the heat, the ionosphere, et cetera, et cetera. So it's an art, and it's not as easy as you think. But anyway, I just wanted to tell you that, because if you do look at my presentations, you'll see, KK4JTW. Now, I want to thank you for being here. It's about 20 minutes, and I know I don't try to make these too long, but bottom line, a couple other very interesting presentations. I have a whole bunch up on Phoenix Animal. I'm sure if you go up there, you'll find something you like. The one on the left, is about a wonderful German Shepherd by the name of Frida. And she is a dog with the Houston Police Department. And she's famous for all her drug busts. Because as you know, you say to an animal, here, smell these drugs. That animal will know whenever it gets anywhere near that same smell. And they put a lot of people in jail because of Frida. And, selling drugs is not good. Anyway, the one on the right is unadoptable. That refers to when animals get much older, and older people are a little reluctant to take in an animal that's elderly, because they know that they won't live that long, which is sad. But moreover, they're afraid, since all of us get older, that they could have medical problems. Both the owner could, but now I'm talking about the animal. So this particular location will kind of lend you a dog for as long as you want within 100 miles of this location. But the good news is, if your animal gets sick, you're saying, oh, I don't have the money to take proper care of my dog, the facility will come and get the dog and take it back to its facility and do whatever it takes to make things right. So, and that's why it's within 100 miles of this location, because they said, wow, if we're going to send somebody to Florida and we're in Mississippi, that doesn't work. But anyway, thank you for being here today. Please excuse my voice. And all my best for everything. We want everybody to be great and wonderful. And we're maybe slowly getting there. Thank you. Take care. Be well.